If I were to ask you to think of a person you know who's really patient, persistent, emotionally balanced, flexible when things change, and takes the long view when it comes to pursuing their goals, I'm guessing you would not be thinking of a 3 or 4-year-old child. It will come as no surprise that young children are not very good at these things, known as executive function skills. I've been studying these skills both as a mom and as a professor in child development. At one point, I was even brought in by Sesame Street to help Cookie Monster with his self-control, although I'm not sure how successful that's been. Executive function refers to the brain-based processes we use to control our thoughts, actions, and feelings. They include holding information in mind, controlling impulses, and thinking flexibly. They help us persevere toward our goals, but also adapt to changing circumstances. Today, I propose we ask ourselves, what would happen if we tended to the development of executive function earlier in children's lives? All of us investing in cultivating these kinds of skills from the roots up. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, or a researcher, we know kids tend to be impulsive and inflexible. For example, no matter how much you think you've prepared your young child for a trip to the store to pick up just a few things for dinner, no treats, there is a chance it will end in a tantrum in the checkout line. This can happen when they get their mind set on something they feel they must have right now. If you know a teenager, this might ring true at times as well. I actually found myself in this situation with my daughter Natalie when she was 3 years old. She refused to leave the store without a new doll. We ended up at opposite ends of the toy aisle, facing each other with our hands on our hips. It was a showdown. We made it out of the store without the doll, but to be honest, for a moment I was at a loss and I thought I might give in. I wished I had better parenting strategies at my disposal in that moment. We know from neuroscience that executive function depends primarily on brain networks involving the prefrontal cortex. This is the frontmost part of the brain and the last brain region to develop. It's not fully mature until one's mid-20s, and then, unfortunately, it begins to decline with age. Because of this, for a long time, some scientists believe young children simply have no executive function at all. We now know that's not true. Take, for example, the so-called marshmallow test. A researcher offers a child a treat, such as a marshmallow, and explains that she needs to leave the room, but if the child can wait to eat it until after she returns, then the child can have 2 marshmallows. So it's kind of like deciding between taking a vacation now or saving for retirement. Back in the 1960s, Walter Mischel and his colleagues noticed that some 4-year-olds would wait patiently up to 15 minutes for a larger reward, whereas others grabbed the treat almost immediately. I was fortunate to be able to collaborate with Walter Mischel before his death. We were wondering whether young children's ability to delay gratification has changed at all since he first did those studies in the 1960s. And to our surprise, using the same procedure, we discovered that preschool-age children today wait significantly longer on the marshmallow test than they did 50 or 60 years ago. 2 full minutes longer on average, which is an eternity in the mind of a 4-year-old. We don't know exactly why this is, but it does track with the rise in IQ in the general population, as well as preschool enrollment during the same time frame. My colleagues and I have developed and validated additional assessments of executive function for children as young as 2 years of age. I even co-founded a company with my partner, Phil Zalazzo, to further develop these tools and make them more widely available. And they don't all involve marshmallows. With the Minnesota Executive Function Scale, a virtual card sorting game that requires children to switch flexibly between roles, we've learned that executive function performance improves dramatically in the early years, as shown here from age 2 to 6. But even the youngest kids could demonstrate some ability on the lower levels of the game. So, if executive function skills can be measured in early childhood, and we know they'll improve with time, why should we care about them? The reason is because they matter more to children's success than you might think. Of course, parents and teachers want to raise kids to be happy and successful. Success is often defined in terms of academic achievement and education level, but we know it's more than that. It also depends on social and emotional intelligence, such as being a team player and having empathy for others. I'm going to offer a way of thinking about this as the tree of success. It has two major branches, academic and social emotional competence. And we can think of executive function skills as the roots of this tree, and of reflection as the driver, or the taproot, if you will, for these skills. Reflection in this sense is basically thinking twice, pausing to consider your options before reacting, and monitoring yourself as you go. On the left side of the tree, there's abundant evidence of a link between executive function and academic achievement. Kids with stronger executive function skills in preschool score higher on math and reading assessments in 3rd grade and are more likely to go on to complete high school and graduate from college. On the right side of the tree, research shows that children with strong executive function skills are better at taking other people's perspectives and reflecting on their own. And when they grow up, they're more likely to engage in healthy behaviors like exercise and less likely to encounter trouble with drugs and alcohol or be convicted of a crime. It's important to note that these relations often hold even after controlling for intelligence and family background. So then, if it's so important, how do we build strong executive function? We can use the tree metaphor to illustrate what my colleagues and I have learned so far. First, you need a rich soil. This includes basic safety as well as nutrition and sleep. Iron and other micronutrients are essential for healthy brain development, starting prenatally. And with respect to sleep, we've learned it's not so much the overall amount of sleep, but rather the hours of consolidated nighttime sleep in infancy that can predict executive function skills years later. Of course, this could be partially explained by their parents getting better sleep too. You'll also need lots of sun. The sun is caregiving. It's best when it's warm and sensitive. But our research has shown that another factor also matters, being what's called autonomy supportive. This is when parents and teachers take the child's perspective, offer choices, and provide just enough support, but not too much. Take the example of a young child working on a puzzle. They might pick up a piece and try to jam it into place, but it just won't fit, and you can see the signs of a meltdown coming. You could help by telling them what to do or doing it for them. But imagine how different it would feel if you simply nudged the correct piece into their view and they discovered it on their own. Owning it is needed before controlling it. In other words, giving children autonomy with just enough support gives them a sense of agency over their own actions, the very same actions we're expecting them to learn to control on their own. You'll also need plenty of rain. We can think of this as language input from the environment. When children are spoken to and asked open-ended questions, even as babies, this builds their word bank. They'll need these words later for what's called the language of thought, when kids literally talk themselves through solving problems and resisting impulses. For example, when we give children the marshmallow test in our lab, it's not unusual for them to suddenly burst into a song about waiting, like this one.
I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting, waiting, waiting. Come back, waiting.
And children who do this tend to wait significantly longer. Language also helps children reflect upon and control their emotions. Like the saying, if you can name it, you can tame it, labeling how we feel can take the heat out of it. You might even find yourself using this strategy to manage your own emotions, and doing so out loud can serve as a good role model for kids. To give you an example, I remember my oldest child, Anna's first day of kindergarten. Neither of us was doing very well with the goodbye. I was reassuring my daughter that she would have so much fun at school while holding back my tears. Then a mom next to me, who's more seasoned with this on her 3rd time around, had a suggestion. Tell her how you feel. I was a little stunned and thought, how I feel, this is about how she feels. But I decided to give it a try as my daughter was clinging to my leg. I said, I'm feeling anxious about today. She looked up at me and said, me too, but I'll see you later. And she let go. Of course, there will be occasional windstorms, like jitters on the first day of school. And things do not always go as planned. For the kid in the grocery store, that could mean there's a longer line than you expected, or you accidentally chose the aisle with candy by the register. For the child working on the puzzle, there could be a piece missing, or it's too advanced, or they have to stop playing for bedtime. Now, if you were beginning to think of executive function as all work and no play, I can tell you that's not the case. Playful settings motivate kids to stick with activities that build executive function skills through games you might remember like Red Light, Green Light and Simon Says. And our research has shown that pretend play, such as imagining you're a superhero, can significantly improve children's ability to think flexibly, persist at tasks, and manage their emotions. We call this the Batman effect. As one 4-year-old boy in our research put it, Batman never gets frustrated. Encouraging children to step outside of themselves through imagination, which is so natural in play, could help them reflect on their thoughts, actions, and feelings, and in turn have greater control over them. In contrast to these positive influences, pests eat away at the roots of the tree. This refers to toxic stress. Unlike the occasional challenges, it's the kind of stress that is pervasive and uncontrollable in the child's life, including trauma from adverse experiences. Toxic stress is the enemy of executive function. It ramps up the emotion regions of the brain while shutting down the prefrontal cortex, upsetting the balance needed to cope effectively. Abuse, institutionalization, racism, and yes, probably growing up in a pandemic, can all take a serious toll on our kids' executive function skills. But the effects of toxic stress can be reduced by attending to all the positive environmental influences I've described. Finally, if we pan out, we see that this individual tree is surrounded by dozens of other trees with interconnected roots and an ecosystem. This stands for the importance of having a sense of belonging to a community and culture. It means we're all in this together and that having good executive function will not on its own guarantee good choices. It needs to be embedded in the context of our values. Look, kids will be kids. They'll have their meltdowns in the store, cling to your leg, and stuff the whole bag of marshmallows in their mouths. But I'd be lying if I told you they'll all grow out of it on their own. Instead, maybe, with more tending to the good soil of adequate nutrition and sleep, the warm sun of sensitive and autonomy supportive caregiving, the quenching rain of rich language input, the occasional storms of mild stress, the play that stretches the imagination and makes it fun, and some pest control to reduce toxic stress. We can support the development of reflection and executive function, these roots of success, as individuals and as a community. Thank you.